I would fly around the world, but I never could afford something quite that steep.
Good morning, Zos. Yeah, good morning to you too. Good morning, Internet. Welcome to a new vlog. It is Tuesday today, and I have some time this morning I'm going to devote toward editing my manuscript. And if you've been following my blog posts and tweets and Facebook posts and everything, you'll know that I finished my manuscript last week, the first draft. And then just recently on, I believe it was Saturday night, I sent the first portion of the story off to my editor, and I'm awaiting that to be worked on, and then I'll receive that when she's done. And I'll tie up some loose ends with that. For my first book, I had one of my good friends edit, and for the second book, I asked her if she wanted to do it again, but her schedule was a little more restrictive than when she did the first book, so she had to opt out. But then I had one of my friends from college, who's an English teacher. He edited the second book, and then I said, hey, you know, you did a good job in the second book, do you want to do the third book? And he said, sure. But then as the time went on, and then we got closer, and then finally into the school year, his teaching schedule is just kind of a little bit crazy. Hi, Zazu. And he wasn't able to get as much work done as quickly as he and I both would have liked. So I just said, hey, do you want to just be a beta reader and you know, give me feedback that way you're still involved, and then I can look for somebody else to edit. He said, yeah, sure, that'd be great. So I have that going for me this book, and it's a little bit different because before I didn't really have an official beta reader. I just had a couple people just kind of read bits and pieces and just give me their general feedback on it. So it'll be cool to see some input that way, a little bit different than editing. But so then after that, I had been in contact with another friend of mine, recently made acquaintance, and she decided to take on this project. So she's going to edit my book, and I'll have more details down the road when, you know, closer to the release. I'll give out, you know, the names and the book details and the cover and all that stuff. But yeah, so I sent the first portion of the book off to her, and I don't know how long it will take to get that done. It just depends, and I've not worked with her before, obviously, so it'll be a trial and error for this first thing, this first little bit. But I intend to get, I'm trying to think of my timeline here. I'm trying to get as much done this week as I can, and then send what I have off to her, and then she'll get to that when she's done with this first portion. And they're running around playing. And then at that point, we'll just kind of see where we are and go from there. But I'm excited because it's to that point in the process where it's, you know, in the official editing stage, and, you know, just working through that aspect of it and seeing what can come of it. And if there, you know, I'm hoping there aren't going to be major rewrites or really any rewrites. Ideally, that's what you want. But with the first draft, you always want to be open to that as a writer. So we'll see what she gives back to me in terms of suggestions, and then see what happens to the story. When I finished the first draft, it was just around 43,000 words, and that's where the first draft was on book 2. And then I ended up, through edits and final read-throughs, I ended up adding about 3,000 words or so, 3.5. So it was, you know, that kind of thing with book 2. So it could be the same sort of deal with this book. More could be added. I'd like to add more rather than take away, just because it's already lower than what I initially wanted. But at the same time, I felt that the story was told in that amount of words, and I've always said that with word count. You know, you don't want to set a bar at a certain level and then force words onto the page just to reach that. You want to make sure that you're telling the story, and when it's told, wherever, if you're beyond that point or if you're shy of it. So that's always something to keep in mind and to try to, you know, make it a good habit of doing. So we'll see what happens when I get those back, and today when I'm going to be editing. This book is written a little bit differently than the last book and then the book before that. So they're all kind of different, yet they have the same sort of feel and I don't know if tone is the right word, but just the same general readability, I guess. Even though they're unique stories and they're not related to each other. So I wanted to keep that intact throughout all of the books, and I'll continue to do that in the next 2 that I write. And then I'll just, go from there with the individual stories and make them their own. And it's always interesting to see what I can come up with and what I think about and how I think about implementing it into the story, or if I can use it, or if I can, if I should put it on the shelf for a while and then come back to it, or things like that. It's always good to have kind of a running list of ideas, whether it's a Word document or a pad of paper you just kind of go back to. But it's good to have that. That way you can use it as something to reference when you're maybe drawing a blank, or you have everything in place, but you just need one little aspect of something to add to it until it's perfect as perfect can be. But yeah, so I'm interested to see also how this story pans out, just because, obviously I know what happens, but as I write, I don't always write just as I plan it. I'll make my skeleton outline and just the basic details of what goes on, and then a lot of little things that are in the books are just kind of spontaneous. They come to me as I'm writing, and I kind of let that lead where the writing goes. There are a handful of things in this book that I originally didn't have in the planning stage. I didn't have them anywhere. They just kind of popped up as I was writing, and I went with it, and they seemed to work pretty well. And again, trying to keep the same feel of the stories, but the story's obviously different than the first 2. So I want to give it its own kind of feel and its own type of story, if you want to call it that. A lot of the first book was, I think I've been told it's a good mix of action and emotion. I think the second book was a lot of emotion coded in action, and it's just, I don't know yet how I would describe this story. I guess time will tell. But I'll quit gabbing for right now, and I'll get to work. That was something else. The short story that I talked about on inkit.com, the writing contest website, it's now over by the time you're watching this, and I don't know if the website will continue to post the stories, if they will have the stories just be posted just for readers' enjoyment, or if they'll take them down. I'll try to find that out for you, but what I intend on doing is using that story in my next short story volume, which I don't yet know if I'm going to do it, but I toyed with the idea of trying to get that done and out sometime in the next 6 months. So sometime from now till around my birthday, maybe in February, we'll see. I'm going to see where I am with the next project, the next World War II project, and how that's going and everything. Oh, thank you. He was just biting me, and then he gives lovin's. But yeah, so it's been a while since a short story volume has been put out, and I said that last spring when Unguarded came out. I said I want to focus on book 3 and get that done, and I'm trying to make that my primary focus. I had a few other side projects that I was going to do. Once this book is done, I was going to do them all kind of simultaneously, but I just decided that it's probably best to just finish the main books of my World War II project and then go from there. So the short story project, we'll see what happens in these next few months. We'll see. But that's really the only other news that I have aside from book 3, and I can't think of anything else right now. So I'll get to work, and then I'll get back to you guys later. And just like that, it is Thursday, and we got a lot more done the past 2 days in terms of editing, and some other things done as well, but I won't touch on that right now. have just the last part, or well, the last half of part 3 to edit, and then the epilogue, which that's only 2,500 words, I think. So it shouldn't take me too much longer to get all this done today, but have that, and then that'll be the first read-through of the story. And I've gone through, and everything is pretty much how I want it to be. There's not too much that I changed or that I felt should have been different. So pretty much at this point, once I get this done, then I'll give my mind and my eyes a few days break, rest a little bit, and then see what my editor says as she gets the parts back to me. And I talked to her yesterday, and she said that she got started on it, and she'll let me know what she thinks as she goes along. So I'm excited to hear her thoughts and opinions about things, and anxious to see what her suggestions will be when the time comes. But the process is moving along, so I'm excited, and already looking ahead to the timeline for the next handful of months, just to see, what things will be looking like with the next project that I'm doing. And I plan on getting moving on that one pretty much the day that I send this book to Amazon to be published. With the pre-order, I have to have it in at least 10 days before the release date, the final draft of the manuscript in for the Kindle. There's not, well, I don't want to say there's not a pre-order option for the print, but I just don't know about one. So I'd have to look into that. It'd be nice to have those pre-ordered, but the beauty with having it pre-ordered on Kindle is that you can pre-order it, and then the day that it releases, it is automatically synced to your Kindle. You don't have to wait for a hard copy to come in the mail. So, but for those of you out there that like reading something in your hands physically other than a Kindle, and you like turning the pages and the smell and everything, like I do to some extent, then that's an option that I would like to have. But maybe in the future I'll look into that, and I can make it work. But yeah, so the day that I send that out, which I think is earmarked as November 30th, it's a Monday, then I'll be going ahead and getting moving on the next project, just because at that point there's nothing more that I can do for this book, because it's already in its final form and then sent off. So at that point it's just a waiting game for it to release, and then see it come out, and I can have it in print when the time comes and look at it and feel satisfaction. And I am satisfied with these books. It's really gratifying to be able to work on something and be creative and make something from nothing, and have a physical copy to put on my shelf at the end of it all, and just to kind of look at it and be like, it's a goal I set, I accomplished it, and it's pretty awesome. It's a pretty cool thing. So I'll get to work now, and then I'll check back in with you later. And just like that, I finished the first read-through edit of the manuscript. So now it's just going to be a few days. I'll give it a break, give my eyes, my mind a rest, and tend to other things. I'll come back to it and hopefully hear back from my editor sometime next week, and then go from there. So that'll be it for today and for this vlog. We'll end it on some footage that we got. Sarah and I went on a walk with Nika just a little bit ago. We'll show some footage of that, and then that'll be it. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not yet a subscriber, please subscribe. That way you can be alerted when my videos post, and you can stay up to date on them. And throughout the next few weeks, I'll be including details about the book and other things along the way. So you don't want to miss it. So thanks a lot. See you next week.